Hey, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on this question in the following slides, and I'm going to reference some of the terminology from operant conditioning. Take a look real quick and then come back to the slide if you need to take a look again. So if I understand your question correctly, I think you're asking if the word and concept of no can still be part of positive reinforcement training so long as we are not using positive punishment in conjunction with it. Positive punishment being adding something unpleasant. And you're asking instead if we can just withdraw something. So withdrawing something would be negative punishment, which is removing something to discourage a behavior. And they give a good example in that slide, but I actually always liked the example of jumping. So I think I said this in my text on that slide. Positive punishment would be like putting your knee up, kneeing the dog in the chest. You're adding something to discourage the jumping. Negative punishment would be like just ignoring the dog and turning away if they jump on you. You are removing your attention to discourage the jumping. All right, so while it's not unusual for negative punishment to show up in a positive reinforcement training plan, I don't think there are very many positive reinforcement trainers who still teach the word or concept of no. And I think there's probably a lot of reasons for this, but I'll just speak for myself. I'll tell you a couple of mine. So first and foremost, it's a slippery slope for the humans. Like an e-collar is not going to magically appear in your hand for you to push a button, but yelling, raising our voice, so easy to do. In a moment of frustration, the no that we intend to just be a withdrawal, just be negative punishment, suddenly slides into positive punishment because we're applying something, we're adding something, the yelling, that's meant to discourage a behavior. So that's the biggest reason. The second reason, and actually now that I think about it, this is my primary reason for not teaching no, is that it's not the best way to train a dog. It's not the most effective, and I don't think it's the most fair way of going about behavior change. Here's what I mean. Behavior is communication. Behavior is driven by emotion. Behavior can be an expression of needs. So when we are encountering an unwanted behavior, if we are not addressing the root of that behavior, the reason why it's happening, and we're only trying to clarify that we don't want it to happen, we're not going to get very far, and we're not actually doing this dog justice. This dog is trying to express something, trying to say something to us. And if we're not listening and we're just saying, I don't want to hear it, that's not very fair either. Last thing I want to say is about the negative punishment aspect of the graphic that I shared earlier. That example was withholding food when the dog doesn't do what we ask. But also, this is super frustrating for the dog. And they're left trying to figure out, why am I not getting my reward? What's happening here? I want to jump in and quickly clarify that withholding food is part of positive training. It is totally fine to do when teaching a new skill and when the relationship is already established between dog and handler and it's already in that positive space that I'm about to describe. So it's not altogether bad, but for dogs who are pursuing behavior modification, new to their handler or new to working together in this way, that's not the best strategy to start with. And that is really sullying the relationship and the association, I guess you could say, with working together with us that we've been trying so hard to build. Because like the cornerstone of reliable training, if you're training with positive reinforcement, is the dog likes working with you. The dog is like, yes, I love when we do this. Because once again, dogs are emotional beings. Dogs are as emotionally complex as we are. They are wired for connection just like we are. And so if the connection that we have with them, if this working relationship that we have with them is based on something really fulfilling, it's connection rich, it's full of joy, it is based on trust. If we're building this kind of working relationship with our dog, then they're going to want to work with us. They're going to want to. And that is reliable training. It goes so much deeper than just like programming the dog to do this or do that in a certain number of repetitions and clarifying what we don't want. Like, dogs are not that mechanical. So we can't overlook the relational aspect and what something like withholding food is going to do to that. Last thing, this isn't really in response to your question so much as it is something I want to say about the concept of no. This is balance training's fatal flaw. They are so focused on saying yes and saying no that they don't recognize that dogs are emotionally complex beings. Dogs have evolved alongside us for thousands of years. They are wired for connection and companionship. Their behavior is communication and an expression of needs and due to underlying feelings, like it is far more complicated than yeses and nos. And when we try to train a dog that way and we ignore all of the rest of it, we're not only doing them a major disservice, but we're raising some serious ethical concerns too. So that's my 2 cents. Of course, I forgot something. So I mentioned that I don't think it's very effective to teach a dog the concept of no and try to say like, oh, I don't want this behavior. I don't think that's the most effective way, but I forgot to say what was more effective. I think what's more effective than trying to say like, I don't want to see that is saying, or is preventing them from practicing it. You manage, this is management, you prevent the undesired behavior from being rehearsed. And at the same time, you are teaching the desired behavior and you are addressing the root of the behavior, which includes like the emotional needs and any other needs that are driving it. So that, in my experience, has been most effective.